All right, let's talk about something you do about 20,000 times a day, probably without even thinking about it. Breathing. Yeah, we all know it keeps us alive, but what if I told you that how you breathe, whether it's through your nose or your mouth, could actually have a real, measurable impact on your health? Let's dive in.
I mean, it seems like the simplest thing in the world, right? You breathe in, you breathe out. But researchers are starting to ask a really interesting question. Does the route that air takes to get to your lungs actually matter? Does breathing through your nose versus your mouth really change anything inside your body? Well, the science is starting to give us some pretty surprising answers.
So why does this even matter? Well, because the stakes are incredibly high. Cardiovascular disease isn't just some abstract concern. It's the #1 cause of death in the United States. So you have to wonder, if something as simple as changing our default breathing habit could give us even a tiny advantage, well, that's a conversation worth having.
To get a real answer, you can't just speculate. You need cold, hard data. And that is exactly what a team of researchers at Florida State University decided to get. They put together a really clean, straightforward experiment to compare nasal and oral breathing head-to-head.
So what do? The setup was actually pretty simple. They brought in 20 healthy young adults and hooked them up to monitors to track key things like their blood pressure and heart rate variability. Then they had each person go through 2 different breathing tests, one breathing only through their nose and one only through their mouth, and they did it in a random order to make sure it was a fair fight.
The rules for these tests were clear and simple. For 5 minutes, you could only breathe through your nose, lips sealed. Then, for another 5 minutes, you'd wear this soft clip on your nose, which forced you to breathe only through your mouth. The researchers were watching closely to see what happened to their bodies in each scenario, both when they were just sitting still and when they were exercising.
Okay, so let's get to the results. First up, the resting phase. Now this is really important because this is how most of us spend our days, right? Sitting at a desk, working on a computer, just relaxing. So who won the battle here?
You might be thinking, what kind of difference could just 5 minutes of breathing one way or another really make? Turns out, quite a bit actually.
Check this out. This was the biggest finding when the participants were just sitting quietly. We're looking at diastolic blood pressure here. That's the bottom number in a blood pressure reading. It's the pressure in your arteries when your heart is resting between beats. When breathing through their mouths, the average was 72. But look what happens with nasal breathing. It drops down to 68.
That's a 4-point drop. Now that might not sound like a huge number, but in the world of cardiovascular health, that is a modest but clinically important improvement. It's a clear signal that the body is in a more relaxed, less stressed state, all from just changing how you breathe.
And that wasn't the only thing. Nasal breathing literally shifted the body's nervous system into what's known as a more parasympathetic state. Just think of that as your rest and digest mode, the opposite of fight or flight. Now, the study didn't test exactly why, but we know the nose is an amazing filter that warms and humidifies air. It also produces something called nitric oxide, which is a gas that helps your blood vessels relax and widen. It makes sense that this could be contributing to these calming effects.
Okay, so at rest, breathing through your nose is the clear winner, no contest. But what about when we start moving, when our bodies are working a bit harder? Does that advantage stick around during exercise? Well, the study looked at that too. Now, the stress test here wasn't an all-out sprint to the finish line. We're talking about moderate exercise on the stationary bike. To put that in perspective, the effort was pretty similar to going for a brisk walk. It was designed to mimic the kind of everyday activities that get your heart rate up a little.
And this is where the plot thickens. Because during this moderate exercise, those benefits we saw at rest, they basically vanished. Just look at the chart. Whether you're looking at systolic blood pressure, diastolic, or even heart rate, the differences between nasal and oral breathing just weren't statistically significant anymore.
And this quote from the researchers really says it all. Basically, breathing through your nose gives you these small but potentially really important health boosts, but specifically when you're at rest. That advantage just doesn't seem to hold up once you start doing moderate exercise.
So, let's put all this together. What's the big takeaway for you and me? What does this mean for our day-to-day lives?
And here it is, the most important point. We spend most of our day at rest. The real magic of nasal breathing isn't about your workout at the gym. It's for all those hours you spend sitting at a computer, reading a book, or watching TV. It's during these quiet, sedentary moments that nasal breathing is especially effective, not during moderate exercise. This is exactly why an app that can help you monitor your nasal breathing, like MeditOwl, for example, could be a really valuable tool for building this healthy habit into your life.
So let's just hammer home the key takeaways. First,
And most importantly, how you breathe really does matter. It has a measurable effect. Second, when you're at rest, breathing through your nose can help lower that bottom number on your blood pressure. Third, it gently nudges your body into a calmer state. And finally, and this is crucial, context is everything. These benefits are clearest when you're resting, not when you're out for a jog.
And that kind of leaves us with this one big final question to think about. This whole study was based on just 5 minutes of breathing a certain way. So it really makes you wonder, if that's what 5 minutes can do, what could the cumulative benefit be of making quiet, calm nasal breathing your default habit day in and day out for your entire life? It's a powerful thought about a simple act we almost never think about.